Welcome to Bloomberg Law. I'm Pacchia. As good as life is these days for players, owners, and fans of my Super Bowl champion New York Giants, you can say the exact opposite for the New Orleans Saints. Coaches and management for the Saints, of course, were recently penalized for taking part in a so-called bounty program that paid players to injure opponents to the point that they had to leave the playing field. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell recently stated that he is in the process of finalizing additional penalties for players that also took part in the program. Here to catch us up to speed, we have attorney for professional athletes Steve Olenick joining us on Skype from Dallas. He is an attorney at SNR Denton. Steve, welcome back. Good to see you.
Great to be here, Lee.
So the NFL's reaction to this program has been pretty strong. Saints head coach Sean Payton has been suspended for an entire year. Defensive coordinator Greg Williams was suspended indefinitely, and a couple other staffers received lighter, but still pretty strong penalties. In instances such as this, do teams have liability here? Can an opposing player that got knocked out, say by the Saints, successfully sue the franchise for damages?
Yeah, Lee, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I think it's a twofolded question in terms of, yes, the player can sue the team, and he can also, as we've seen, he can sue the league. So, you know, you're probably going to see a negligence, a fraudulent misrepresentation. So these are some of the types of claims that you'll probably see. And if you look at the complaint that was filed, that's pretty much what they kind of hit on.
Right. So you're bringing up the complaint that was filed against the NFL by players. Let's try to gauge who's more liable in this instance. Is there a reason that the players went right to the NFL? Is it simply a matter of going for deeper pockets, or is there a stronger claim to be made against the league?
Well, you know, once again, look at negligence. I mean, you got to look to see whether there was a duty, who was informed, you know, how much awareness was out there. You know, these are the types of things that you're going to look at to see how much awareness, was there any kind of, you know, mandate in terms of education? Did they put safety measures in terms of actually putting together any type of education, or providing kind of information in terms of whether there was long-term effects or whatnot, in terms of concussions, whether players getting hurt. Right. So to answer your question, yes, I mean, you know, the onus is on whoever has that information. Was there a standard in terms of, did they have information more so than the actual general public? If so, were the players actually given that type of information?
Right. So, of course, is saying that the reaction by the NFL is really all about showing the world how seriously they take issues of player safety. Steve, the NFL is currently facing 61 concussion-related lawsuits. That means there are more than 1,200 former players involved in this litigation. That said, however, there's about 10,000 retired and former NFL players out there. Is it safe to say that we're going to see a lot more in terms of these lawsuits?
Absolutely. Where there's money, there's people willing to sue. So I think what you're going to try to see is, you know, even more players jump on the bandwagon. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Are we at a point where you're expecting these lawsuits to be filed any day, or is there some other catalyst out there that needs to take place in order for that real wave to come forth?
Well, we're going to have to wait to see, you know, how the judge actually rules on the most recent complaint. Once we start flushing out some of those cases, you may start to see more players actually actively pursue any type of legal action.
Steve, as I said before, you represent a lot of pro athletes. A lot of them are in the NFL currently. What is the sense among your clients and other players that you meet in your day-to-day over whether the league is currently doing enough to protect its players?
Well, I mean, you know, you got to look at it. Players are becoming bigger, faster, stronger. As technology starts to evolve, medical research starts to evolve, I think there's a concern. And, you know, football's a violent game. So you've got to make sure that all these players are actually protected. So in terms of what needs to be done and what's going to be done, you know, the issue's out there. Now it's just, where's this going to go? So yeah. I tend to think that we're probably going to see more medical research, more advocation in terms of, you know, getting players safely, protected in terms of this sport.
Steve, I'm no expert, but I always thought it would make sense to remove the helmets. You don't see rugby players having these kinds of problems. You don't see Australian football players having these kinds of problems. American football helmets in the last 10 years have become very sophisticated pieces of equipment. You almost have to wonder if they've gotten to the point where they're so sophisticated they can be used as a weapon in ways that really weren't possible before. Do you think that there's something at play here?
Well, I tend to think, players play a certain way. So, anytime you try to minimize players playing at a certain speed or in a certain way in terms of hitting someone, I think you tend to see that either A, someone gets hurt, or B, you start having problems in which we're starting to see whereby guys are getting fined for these malicious hits. Mm-hmm. I think, as technology evolves and as players actually start to recognize the dangers involved with hitting certain ways, this is going to be an ongoing problem that we're going to have to see and try to advocate for players to play a certain way. But it's very tough. Football's a very violent sport. Yeah,
and I think it's kind of an unwieldy solution just to start fining players for hits. And I can't think of really any business where people are fined for basically doing something that's their job. Steve, before we let you hop, one more question. The NFL draft is coming up, and there's a new collective bargaining agreement in effect this year. What's different for a rookie coming into the draft this year as opposed to last year's class?
Well, you're starting to see the guaranteed money and the contract length. In terms of guaranteed money, players in the past were able to get more guaranteed money up front and over a longer period of time. Now we've kind of minimized the contracts at most to a 4-year period, and it's a cap slotted percentage in which how much they can actually make. Mm-hmm. So guys are making less money, but that's part of the new collective bargaining agreement.
How much less are we talking about here? Someone like Andrew Luck, who's going to be probably the first draft pick in the first round, presumptively going to the Indianapolis Colts, how much less is he going to make this year than he would have in other years?
Almost half in terms of guaranteed money. Yes. You could look at Matthew Stafford, how much money he was guaranteed, over $50 million roughly when it was all said and done. And Andrew Luck, we'll probably see, depending on what the actual number comes out to be, almost about $23 million.
Very interesting days to be looking at the NFL from a lawyer's perspective. Steve, I want to thank you so much for your time today, sir. Great to see you.
Always a pleasure, Lee.
That's attorney Steve Olenick from SNR Denton joining us via Skype from Dallas. If you'd like to learn more about the cases and issues we just discussed, be sure to check out our offerings on BloombergLaw.com and also on the Bloomberg Terminal. You can see more of our videos on YouTube, and you can follow our updates on Twitter. I'm Pacchia. Thanks for watching.